just they require a building permit. Basically, I guess just because they need to make sure you're attaching it to the roof using a proper technique. But and it doesn't seem like that covers all that much they can look at. And then the electric is for connecting to their grid, of course, just their internal main panel, and just having it send back.
See, and in this situation, I mean, the homeowner's he's got the building permit through through the zoning administrator. What if you went to the county for the permit on putting that electrical in, because the building's already got the permit?
Yeah, well, usually.
Did you try that?
No, I didn't try to go around
You didn't
anything.
go to the county?
Well, that's because I'm used to just every local HA. That's the only place I've ever.
Okay, why did he have to go to you with this? Couldn't he have just gone to the county, Dave?
No, I talked to the county too about this quite a while back, and they won't issue a permit unless the township issues it first, even according to this here. I talked to Mike, the head guy there, and I said, right now, it's in the air, I try and keep.
Right, but you don't, they issue electric permits and plumbing permits without you being involved in that.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why this doesn't fall under that same category on that house.
You'd have to ask
That doesn't make
the
sense.
county.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Why didn't he go to the county and ask that?
The county.
Because he was discouraged by everybody else. Because everybody else told you not to do that.
Suppose. I'm just usually the guy trying to get the building permit, and that's where I ran into this wall. Yeah.
I think you should go to the county and talk to Mike, the head the building.
Okay. County talk to Mike.
That'd be easy.
And I guess my question, as a follow-up to that, if you don't mind, would be, I guess I'm still a little confused about commercial and industrial. When you say the residential, commercial can be up to 300 panels. I'm thinking 300 panels take up quite a lot of space. But that's okay as long as it's just for that person's operation and they're not selling it to someplace else. That's the difference.
I think that's just where I see the line in the sand in my own head, because I know that once you get into industrial level, it's a whole different ballgame of even dealing with the utility, because you need to be able to.
Said it was okay. That's something else to decide it's okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's
Right,
just
that's the
explaining.
parameters that we make.
Right.
He's explaining the sizes, but we decide what's okay or how it, when it's okay, where it's okay, how it's that's what's up to us.
Yeah.
I'm just getting clarification, if we're talking about residential and commercial, it can be up to 300. That's what I'm asking, I don't know.
To me, that's all relative. That's where we want to determine that line in the sand.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, let's say you have a large commercial, but like Olympics, and they can easily sustain 1,000 panels on a roof, and nobody even notice it. You know what I mean? So to me, that's relative in size of the building. But when you start putting it out in the plain view side, or start
And is it on
reflecting,
the top or is it on
right, as opposed to a house.
ground? How far, if it's on the ground, how far back is it from someone else's property, all those things.
I think the definition between the residential commercial, I think can really get grouped together just on the sizing of the project, whereas industrial's sole purpose is to sell that commodity for a profit, whereas the commercial residential are used to offset cost of energy.
And all the numbers, those are the parameters that the planning commission makes.
Correct. Well, recommends for the board makes the decision.
Anyway, I'm just trying to get to where, once we start doing public hearings and everything, I'd rather bundle stuff together and get it all done.
But do we need to tell Boone and Slug it, and give them some parameters maybe?
So, from the standpoint of, why there was a referendum on the ordinance that we did, why did it fail? Was it only because there was so much anger against the township board, or was there really something in it that needed to be changed?
Are you asking me or?
I'm asking you.
Anything back in one?
Anybody here on the board, so that's what we came up, that was a question
Well,
last
so
time.
here's
You
the
didn't-
problem with having public comment before the meeting, is that you can't get feedback from the audience now about what we're talking about, unless we allow them to speak up. That doesn't make any sense. Remember what happened in August and come with public comments before we had a meeting,
Are you saying you don't know
I
what
believe
any
we
of
should
their
have-
objections are?
I do know some of them, but
Will you tell us?
I wanna hear from them. I think we should hear from them. These are our citizens. So I think we should have public
At our last
comment.
meeting, I guess we didn't really get much feedback.
Yeah, we tried.
Oh, okay,
We tried to
well,
talk to
can we
We
ask
opened it
maybe?
up. We had conversations.
Well, I can tell you for sure that the parcel percentage coverage was a big one. I'm surprised that you don't know this, but,
Now, wait a minute, if you look in our minutes, it's there, we did talk about it.
okay,
We
well,
knew that.
that's a huge one. Setbacks are a big deal. The setbacks are small. I think, what are they, 100 feet from someone else's property? So those are the biggest ones. I know we could always do a setback waiver, by the way, which I think we could do for solar and wind. So if someone that doesn't have a lease decides that they're okay with it being closer, we can offer the waiver option. I think that's something that we can always offer. Gosh, I didn't check through my notes on this, I didn't think this was. I mean, those are the big ones that I know of.
Sound,
Well, our sound is not horrible, in the ordinance, it's not horrible.
no LMAX, I mean, that's what,
I've been
you're
pushing
better
for
off with a
LMAX.
higher number with LMAX than you are with an average.
Yeah, we made it pretty quiet.
We
You
did,
could double
but-
the number and make it LMAX and it'd be better.
And we did L10, which is really,
Well,
really hard
and
to enforce.
There's buffer and there's, you get,
I don't think that they're generally super low, so I'm not, that's why I didn't bring that up. But definitely the parcel percentage coverage is huge. Huge. And
we
there's
had a
not-
hard time coming up with a formula for that.
Right, we talked about that at our last.
That
meeting.
was where we kinda, we talked about a formula that is like a certain percentage of the whole township, a certain percentage.
No, of a parcel, that's the only way you can measure it and enforce it, it's just like sound, what makes it difficult when it's not LMAX is it's really difficult to enforce. Cause who's gonna do those measurements, the solar company, the wind company?
Yeah, why not?
You're gonna trust them? You're gonna trust consumers to be like,
They're gonna put it right,
Only doing 50.
and yes, it can be
but how
verified.
do you how?
I mean,
You have to, then the township has to hire someone separately to come in and do their own sound
And that
measurements,
can
and
be-
then we have to fight the wind company or the energy company, and we don't have the money to do that. We can't fight consumers or DTE.
Yeah.
It's all part of the plan.
Alright.
Is you have a third party, you have a bond set for that. It's all been discussed.
We definitely should do that.
Yes, I know.
So, I think it was acreage, which, what did we decide on, 15? I don't have the ordinance in front of me, 15 acres or more,
I think it's 10.
10? So that's another thing, there's lots of, ordinances that have 20 or more, and then a percentage of the parcel, so the easiest way to, there's no way to measure an amount of the township, and then what do I say? Hey, I know you have your own 20 acres, but we already covered 50% over here, so you can't have any solar. So it has to be a percentage of the parcel. I mean, it's the only way I can think of to actually measure and enforce that.
but then does it chop up a whole program to where it doesn't even work? It makes it, is that the only way to do it? That was.
I mean, you asked me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are ordinances that prohibit it completely on PA 116 land. That's not even a discussion here, but there are ordinances that do. So I think we need to allow it in a responsible way and in a way that isn't gonna get referended over and over, because that's what just happened.
So that is the idea, hopefully we can do that with Win 2. So, and it seemed like the last time when we did talk about it last time, it was kinda like we came to that, that was about the only way to do it, a percentage of the whole township.
How do you measure that?
The same way you would measure for
Is
each
Dave gonna
household.
keep records of the percentage of each parcel, and then at some point, you know what else gets to do solar?
Yep. Yeah, that is one way to do it.
I mean, I respectfully disagree that that's the best way to do it, but what do you guys think?
Well, that's what we talked about, that's where we were the last time we met, and actually, last time we met, the only thing I wrote down from, because we we asked people all that information, and we got those two things, the setback and the parcel, how much land of the township should be used, and we talked about, there's, what, 23,000 acres, roughly, agriculture in the township, so we're gonna put a percentage on that and say total acres for the township, we talked about that. We talked about, no, it'd be percent of parcels, like if you own 500 acres, well, can you have 10% of your land go to solar? And if you own 5 acres, can you have 10% of your 5 acres be solar? Where do you cut, how, I think that's where we were all stumbling at back last meeting. We need to get a little more clarification about how that would work and how that would look. Because you got property owners like Sandyland that's got, what, 8,000-9,000 acres in the township, probably close. You got some of those big farms, big operations, as you're saying, Ken, that's the only place we're gonna have them then, is on that large tract of land instead of opening it up to other people that want it.
That's why we have, right now we have 10, it'll be 10, 15, 20 acres minimum to have large solar, meaning industrial solar, meaning you can sell it to an energy company.
But I don't think 10 or 15 acres you can sell it, they want larger parcels than that.
Alright, so if you don't do it for the township as a whole, and you do it per parcel, now are you even doing it for every lot that isn't even an acre? Is that part of it? That takes away then from,
No,
You
because
know,
we're talking
what-
about large solar, which we have a limit on it, it has to be
okay,
10
so then
acres
how
or
do
more.
so then we still have the same problem adding up all the areas that would be lumped into that part that gets a percentage. So you end up with the same kind of situation, you have to figure out what part gets the percentage from. And yes, it does get to be, detailed and probably expensive. And so, we'll have to get the cost to even get it started. Somebody that wants to, do that kind of work, would have to pay for that kind of study, those kind of numbers.
Yeah, just thinking out loud here, so that ordinance will get put in place, and then let's say it's peppered all over the place, they're gonna have to build a distribution line somewhere, and in effect, that's gonna be the only spots where that project's gonna be built at, so no matter what, it's gonna be centralized to certain spur lines, if you will.
So I think this is, the class we went to up at Mount Pleasant, one of the things they counted on was the master plan. What the community wants, where the community's going. And sometimes I think we're putting the cart before the horse with these, with the solar and the wind. If we had the master plan set, if we had the community involvement in developing that, I think that would probably clarify where the community wants to go and what direction we should go with this. Just like the overlay district. I thought it was a good idea, when it was brought up in our class, they said that really should be defined in the master plan prior to using it in an ordinance. So I think the master plan would, updating that would probably solve some of the issues. Give us some direction on what the community wants and where we should go with this. So, that's just my thought.
Is that part of the planning commission?
It's part of the community, yeah.
The master
But it would
plan.
drive the direction forward.
But I mean,
Updated the master.
what committee leads it though?
Well, we'd have to,
It's planning commission.
use the planning commission, yeah. And what we would do is hire an outside third party to basically walk us through that.
When's the
Because
last
it's
time
one-
that was updated?
So it's typically supposed to be looked at every 5 years, reviewed.
When was ours last updated? I didn't know when our last one was updated, I went a lot harder than this.
I think it was 2008-ish. It was prior to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's time, and I think that would answer some of the questions. Give us a direction as a planning commission, right, and what the community wants to, so.
This was in 2003, I thought we went about 10 years before we updated that, but maybe if you got something that says it was 8, I don't know.
I'm guessing that 8, I thought it was around 2008, but maybe it was 13, 14, just prior to me.
I think so,
Okay.
I think it was closer to that.
I guess Ken, you said ideally it'd be nice to do both ordinances, but yet, I think the top priority would be to get the small scale one done first. I mean, if we got guys out there waiting,
Well,
Does that mean-
what Ken is saying makes sense, I mean, ordinances, I understand, they make sense to me. A master plan, I don't know how to do a master plan.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, yes, then it comes back to, okay, now, go back, do the small stuff.
Has everybody on the board here got a master plan copy?
That was supposed to be what you did, and that was a year ago. I could use it.
Probably.
I mean, there's been quite a few people rotated out of the committee here and probably the
That should have been provided when you originally got your ordinance.
I got the ordinance book, but I don't think I have that.
You guys should have got
Unless it's
and I don't have
It's
the
got its own section.
the green book. It is a master plan in there, that's right. Yeah, in the green book, there is a master plan, you got everyone a master plan.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that. I don't have it.
Yeah, so you got the copy when we
They told me to
updated the
get it
ordinance
from
book, and that would all work together, but.
Right.
So Julie, that's one thing that Township Board did.
Yeah, and I mean, there's classes on master planning, so I'll take a class, like, I'd like to know what I'm doing. I mean, we can talk about that in the future, but I don't think that's a bad idea, I think it's something the public is key.
It's a must do, it really is. And it gives the community direction,
Yeah.
where we wanna be.
Yeah, exactly, and who are we here for, you know? Everybody.
So kind of back to
updated the whole book.
on the small scale residential there, but
We did a whole different
Well, there
survey.
was a motion, wasn't there? Second.
yeah, we did.
So then,
Do we wanna just see what they come up with first and then tweak it or give them some parameters?
yes, but can we also do, ability survey?
Okay.
That proposed solar ordinance did mention in the back, it says like section 3.14. Or accessory. Page 24.
Accessory buildings.
So what are we looking at exactly?
The accessory buildings, and then there's accessory uses. And so, is there a difference between an accessory building? Is there something, you know, what's accessory uses? You know,
Dave?
Okay, see, there's a difference between an accessory building and an accessory structure. Is that, no, but your question was, is there a difference between an accessory use, could be an accessory building or an accessory structure, you know, if it's a detached garage, that's an accessory use, which would be a garage, you know, and if it's a, you know, accessory structure could be a birdhouse or a clothesline pole or anything, that's an
Or the racks that the panels are put on themselves, be the except the racks that the panels are put on themselves that aren't on a roof.
they'd be a structure.
That's what the,
When actually the panels are a structure. you
right,
know.
that's why I think that definition, therefore, if you do a freestanding solar array next to your building, that's what that structures.
Now, I believe in our definition, accessory building, it might say something about a roof, I haven't looked it up in a while. And an accessory structure doesn't ever, give me a second now. Accessory building and structure. Okay, in this definition, it has them both together, and I don't know why, cause there's two different ones, but I think down the road mentioned to the planning commission, but, a building here is an independent structure, temporary or permanent, having a roof supported by columns, walls, and other support and used for enclosure of persons, animals, possessions, and conduct business activity. Okay, structure is, totally different.
I mean, auxiliary isn't even in definitions.
What's that?
Auxiliary, anything, there's nothing auxiliary in the definition.
Accessory, there is, I believe, hang on a second, let me look up that.
There's accessory structure, accessory use. See, that's what I'm getting at with this book, but when you come back, okay, yes, accessory, and so it describes, you know, an accessory building, and then it says accessory structures. And then it goes on to talk about a building, but not about a structure.
Yeah, that's
A
right.
subordinate building on the same premises with a main building or portion of a building occupied or devoted to an accessory use. For example, a private garage, when attached to a main building, the accessory building shall be considered part of the main building. And, alright, so right there with all this, you attach a solar panel to a house as part of the main building.
Which is probably why Boom and Slug has said it's okay to do.
And accessory use or accessory, a use which is clearly incidental in the principal use of the lot and customarily found in connection with the principal use. Accessory use shall be located on the same lot. I mean,
So you said, Slug said you can put it on the roof, he never told me, I don't have any,
Well, that legal opinion you gave me basically
no,
said
it
that.
doesn't say that.
Yeah.
It says you can have it on the ground and roof, yeah, so they can have it anywhere. If you guys do what you gotta do.
it says,
I'll read it, lawyer's thing again.
I
if you
think
want.
that by January meeting, we probably can have something in place
Right.
that allows people to do this. I mean, like, we can
We
go
can come
on
up
and
with
on
a-
about the words, but like, we
okay,
can just,
but it's gonna come up again with something else.
that may be true. I just think if we're trying to get people to be able to do small solar, that we can just get the lawyer to get something, Ryan will talk to them, we'll get something together.
Most building permit or electrical permits that we fill out, it has on there solar, PV array, you know, standalone or on structure, and it's just a check, it's up to a certain kilowatt. And then it's all just the building level, you know, but I'm assuming they already have an ordinance in place or something to protect against that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's normally how it goes, it's just right on the building permit itself, and then you fill it out, you pay your fees, and.
I mean, how do we do that as a board? Do we say, you know, we're just gonna leave it to the electrical permit? Like, I don't think that we can just do that.
And I think by the way it is right now is that they're looking for that separate derived system, you know, but the industrial side is just kind of catching everything in its tailwind right now, and
Yeah.
definitely I think it should probably be separated.
Yeah, and I think we can do that before January. I mean, it should not be difficult to get something in place separated, to look at it in January, we're all happy with it, and think that it will go, we can make a motion, and then if the citizens don't like it, they can referendum it, whatever, but hopefully, you know, but I don't know if we're gonna get anywhere else tonight with that, like, I think we need them to put something together, cause we can't change the language right this second.
That's what I'm saying. Do it at the same time, because you gotta have public hearings and everything else.
So let's have them review our ordinance
I don't know if we're ready for the.
in correlation with that.
I'm not really sure that either, I think we have to talk more about the vertical percentage coverage stuff, and we've tried, and we haven't really gotten anywhere. But yeah, at least have them review the small set, I think, and try to get something on paper before January. And there's no reason to hold that up for people, I don't think.
Well, so if we're gonna wait for Slug to do the work we're asking for, we're talking about coming back in January, going over that. If we like how that is, then it starts to go through the steps. And I'm just saying that I don't understand why those panels can't go up right now by what's in this book.
Well, except for what Dave said is that once we put an ordinance, because we started this work,
And it got referendum.
right, it pulls itself out of general, information into a separate. I don't know, that's just what I said.
Ordinance, yeah, so it's not part of this anymore, it's a separate.
We basically pulled it out of the main, but
We've been doing it for years, even before we got into this one.
I think it's something you can try to prevent it.
And I don't think it will be difficult, as long as we just get something.
But even though the big one got referendum, even in the big one that got referendum, for small solar, it said to go back to general, back to our township accessory buildings. It says that, and that's the definition of small solar, to go back to Winfield Township. So technically, that's how we did use small solar. If that's not our definition, then that's all in that ordinance.
I don't know.
Well, anything else in solar here?
I don't think anyone's gonna like lose their mind if we wait until January to pass something like this, so we can talk about this all day, but
Right.
I don't think Dave's about to issue any permits, so why don't we just get something from the lawyer and talk about it in January? Then we know we're
Passed
solid.
that motion already, didn't it?
Yeah, we already passed it.
When we're solid, I mean, I don't know what,
Any other old business?
Well, the only question I have about the ordinance is still getting back to what, when we asked people, that big thing did come back to parcels, percentages somehow. And we've talked about that, and somehow, I don't know if we need to discuss that further, or how we get good information. Because I'm not sure, myself, if it should be of the whole 23,000 acres, or if it should be each landowner's parcel, and then should it be, well, if it's, pick a number, 80 acres. 80 acres or smaller, you can do it under our residential. If you're over 80 acres, then it's gotta become a big one, an industrial one. Is that what we're talking about, or,
Well, wait a minute.
what are we talking about?
If we did a master plan and there were zones that, of a master plan where that stuff would fall into, wouldn't that help define the
I'm fine if we get a
in those
master
areas?
plan over there, whether it's 10 acres, I don't care what it is, I'm just saying we somehow need to agree on what it should be.
I think that can clarify some things, and I think that can be part of the discussion with the master plan,
Yeah, I
right?
think that goes with the master plan.
I think that'll get community involvement.
I'm
Help us
just not sure we
decide.
have a master plan by January.
We will not.
No.
It's gonna take us a few years.
Right.
small solar are goal with January, I think, but the big stuff's gonna take a minute.
Yeah.
So one of the things with the master plan, if you and the township board can get together and figure out what they use in the past, possibly, or what resources are out there, you can move forward.
I do know the MTA does some training on this kind of stuff, so I don't think that's a bad idea.
But
for
we
any
want,
of us.
yeah, I agree, we want some
Cause
professional.
I don't know what I'm doing either with that, like, I have a general idea of what the master plan is and what the purpose is, but I've never participated in updating a master plan, so we'll talk about that more maybe in December.
But back to yours, and the other one that got referendum, it says in small solar to go back to 314 in our book. It says that right in there for small solar. So it puts you right back to accessory buildings, what he brought up. I mean, that's how we decided to do small solar. And it says that right in there. I realize it got referendum, but technically we put it right back to our township.
Well, referendum again.
So, yes, because it's on referendum, you go by
We got it.
what the current ordinance is.
What the current ordinance is.
Right. Cause it was the current
Well,
one.
we don't have a solar ordinance, so we don't have
The,
anything.
the
in
solar
we don't have
ordinance,
anything to
put it
add
back
on.
to the
It's just going
current
to general code.
accessory, so it got referendum, so it should just go back to the current. What I'm
So-
bringing up, the fact that you shouldn't be able to stop them because it should just go back to the current of what Winfield Township has.
I guess that's up to Dave.
Because it's accessory.
You want
And that's
to
what he's
permits,
asking
go
for
it.
from us.
If you don't feel comfortable,
According to that
attorney told you-
attorney's letter, something
Yeah,
has to be
then I
done
would,
by
then I
the
probably
board.
wouldn't issue a permit, but
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be
not
the-
the
that'd be
zoning
the township
administrator,
board,
you are,
not
so.
us.
I wouldn't according to the attorney's letter,
Okay,
that's what I
there we go.
read you guys, you guys have to do something.
I don't think that's what the attorney's letter said, though, Dave.
All right.
So it should go back to the board, if that's what sent the attorney, then the board can make that decision.
I mean, we can write the letter, we can talk about it in
Yeah.
December, we can write the letter.
Picture that.
I'm fine with that.
Because if we
I'm
can
just
just
saying at
go
this
back to
point,
that,
it's on Dave's.
the local residential, we can do it, we use what we've always had.
Yeah. Talk about it in December.
All right, if there's no other old business and new business to be brought up.
I'm on the steering committee right along with George. I was over at I'm down in Sarno.
Okay.
And, we were at the county, and they said we had to get with the planning commission, zoning commission on this township hall we're trying to do. So, what do we gotta do, for you guys to figure out what we have to do for the building?
Well,
Cause you're the planning commission, so.
just like,
Make it bigger, make it better, and get it away from this road.
We've got, we need you guys and the zoning, so how do we gotta go about you guys and the zoning? Because George and I's doing all the legwork, and we're supposed to come to you guys first. I don't know if George has talked to you or not, but I've been sitting here, I haven't heard nothing, so I'm bringing it in.
Solar on it? No, and we haven't talked about that. I think we have to go through the zoning, we have to go through Dave first, when we're ready to get a building permit. And then Dave brings it to this board and to the whole board. I assume that won't be a problem. to
But we
build
gotta
a
have the
building.
planning, then we gotta get the zoning and
Right.
all involved before we even do any of that.
well, you kinda gotta have a blueprint of what you're building.
Right, that's what we're at,
Right.
next meeting with the board in December to
Yeah.
talk about, do they want an engineer or an architect, and
Right.
gotta get some ideas on size, and we've had the place, soil's been perked and all those things, so we're moving along everything that as quickly as we can. The next thing now is with back to the board of what they want us to do next,
Right.
and then we'll keep going forward. We've been, like Dennis said, we've been to the road commission 2 or 3 times, we've been health department, so we got everything lined up to go. We just needed some direction from the whole board, and they've only met once, so they're gonna meet in December, and Ryan said they'll certainly talk about it more and give us some more direction. We're not gonna meet again in December, we're gonna wait till January, it's on their request, so. But that's all moving forward, and I don't assume the planning commission has any problems with planning a building,
No,
but that'll come through the zoning.
I mean, you're just wondering about getting permits
Well,
and that
no,
type
I
of
wanna
thing?
know, because we've got the zoning, who's doing the zoning? Is that going through the zoning board? We gotta go through you guys to go to the zoning board?
Well, the land is already zoned, whatever you're.
Well, the
yeah,
thing is, just like the county said, everything's gotta be laid out
Right,
through you guys first before we even, and we gotta have an architect to draw everything up,
right.
Why is the name architect?
so.
Architect or engineer.
It's gotta be one of the two before we even turn it into a county.
This location.
No, over at the
The other
location
one.
across the street.
You gotta get a,
Where
we
the
have a
park
plan,
is,
right,
right west of the park.
and that would go to Dave.
That's gotta be go.
Dave would approve the zoning on it,
Right, either gotta go.
and as soon as the zoning's approved by Dave, then it can go to the county for the permit.
Right.
That's how the building permits work.
What, and then just the building permit, because you've got the land runoff, the water runoff over there, the road going in, so that's not through Dave, that's through the zoning and the board. And even the road commission told us that.